We are living through a massive psychological illusion. Every morning you log onto your phone and you are flooded with images of private jets, multi-million-dollar watch collections, and 24-year-old day traders driving customized sports cars through the streets of Miami. We have been conditioned to believe that this hyper-visible, hyper-luxury lifestyle is the definition of wealth. But if you look at the cold, hard economic data coming out of the Federal Reserve and the Census Bureau, you discover something incredibly jarring. The reality of what it means to be wealthy has completely decoupled from the Internet's version of it. Even more shocking, a massive portion of the people you think are wealthy are actually drowning in debt, running on a high-income hamster wheel where a single bad month could destroy them. So what is the real number? How much money do you actually need to be considered objectively rich? Today, we are tearing down the facade. We are breaking down the exact net worth and annual income thresholds required to enter the top 10%, the top 5%, and the elite top 1% of American society. But more importantly, we are exposing the hidden trap that waits for people at every single one of these levels, a psychological loop that makes millionaires feel like they are completely broke. If you want to understand how the game of money is truly played, you have to look past the luxury cars and see the actual balance sheets. But before we pull back the curtain on the numbers, take a second to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. This channel is dedicated to giving you the unvarnished truth about wealth psychology and macroeconomics, truths that the consumer economy spends billions of dollars trying to hide from you. Join us, because understanding this data is your first real step toward true financial sovereignty.
Let us start by looking at a character we all know. Let us call him Marcus. Marcus is 34 years old, wears a sharp suit, works in a modern corporate office, and makes a very comfortable six-figure income. By every traditional metric of the American dream, Marcus has made it. Yet, when he sits at his kitchen table late at night looking at his bank statements, his chest tightens. He feels an ambient, persistent anxiety. Why? Because while his income has grown, the cost of his lifestyle has grown even faster. He is trapped in a classic cycle of lifestyle inflation, trying to look rich while completely blocking his path to actually becoming wealthy. He assumes that the people in the top 10% possess an entirely different, untouchable existence, but the data tells a radically different story. To break into the top 10% of American households, the financial baseline is lower than you might think, yet incredibly out of reach for the vast majority. According to recent Federal Reserve data, entering the top 10% requires an annual household income of roughly $149,000. When you look at net worth, which includes your house equity, retirement accounts, and investments, minus all your debts, the threshold sits at approximately $970,000. Think about that. Nearly $1 million just to get a seat at the bottom of the upper echelon. On paper, a top 10% household is highly secure. They have stable careers, standard 401k contributions, and real estate equity. But here's the psychological catch. The top 10% is where the comparison trap becomes lethal. Morgan Housel, the brilliant author of The Psychology of Money, noted that doing well financially can be dangerous because it triggers a relentless upward comparison. When you enter the top 10%, you stop comparing yourself to the average American making $70,000 a year. Instead, you start looking at the people right above you. Marcus stops looking at his college friends and starts looking at his regional director who lives in a gated community and drives a high-end electric SUV. Suddenly, $1 million net worth doesn't feel like wealth. It feels like the bare minimum just to survive. And this is exactly where most people unknowingly lose years of their lives. They use their entry into the top 10% to fund an illusion. They take out massive mortgages, lease luxury vehicles, and put their children in elite private schools. They have a high income, but their net savings rate remains dangerously close to zero. They are what Wall Street calls Henrys, high earners, not rich yet.
But what happens when you cross the next major boundary? What does it take to double that status and enter the top 5%? To stand in the top 5% of American society, the numbers scale up aggressively. Your household income needs an annual income of at least $352,000. Your net worth threshold jumps significantly, requiring a minimum of $3.8 million. At $3.8 million, you have officially exited the territory of standard middle-class comfort. You are now holding significant allocations in the stock market. You likely own multiple properties, and your passive income is beginning to carry real weight. You would think that at nearly $4 million, the financial anxiety would completely vanish, but the human mind has a terrifying capacity to normalize any level of success. At the top 5% level, the upward gaze becomes even more intense. The assets are larger, but so are the liabilities. This is the zone where people buy vacation homes that require massive upkeep, invest in highly volatile private equity deals, and constantly rub shoulders with the truly elite. The trap here is no longer about buying consumer goods, it is about buying status. Think about the sheer math of this reality. If you have a net worth of $3.8 million and you follow the traditional 4% retirement rule, your assets can safely generate roughly $152,000 a year in pre-tax income. That is an incredible foundation. But if your lifestyle costs $250,000 a year to maintain because of high property taxes, premium country club memberships, and luxury travel, you are still completely dependent on your active labor. You cannot walk away. You are still a prisoner to the grind, wearing gold-plated handcuffs. But then there is the destination everyone talks about, the cultural obsession, the top 1%.
To join the top 1% of American households, you enter an entirely different financial stratosphere. The numbers required to step into this elite club have skyrocketed over the last few years due to unprecedented asset inflation and stock market surges. To be a 1% earner today, your household needs to bring in a staggering $794,000 per year in income. If you look at total accumulated wealth, the minimum net worth required to be in the top 1% nationwide is $11.6 million. And if you live in high-cost states like California or New York, that baseline can easily surge past $14 million. The legendary investor Warren Buffett famously noted that the stock market is a highly efficient mechanism for transferring wealth from the impatient to the patient. The top 1% are the ultimate beneficiaries of this transfer. They do not just earn money, they own the productive assets of the world. The average member of the American top 1% actually holds close to $16.4 million in total wealth, controlling a staggering 35% of all the household wealth in the United States. But here is the ultimate paradox of the top 1%. Even at $11 to $16 million, a massive percentage of these individuals do not report feeling rich. In Charles Schwab's Modern Wealth Survey, respondents stated that to be truly wealthy, they felt they needed an average net worth that always sat just out of their current reach. When you possess $12 million, you find yourself invited to charity galas, elite real estate masterminds, and private marina clubs. You look around and you see individuals who own super yachts, flying on private Gulfstream jets, and purchasing $10 million modern art pieces. Suddenly, your $11 million feels incredibly small. You feel like a middle-class citizen in a playground of billionaires. The goalposts do not just move, they fly away. This brings us to the profound psychological perspective of wealth. If the top 10% feel stressed, the top 5% feel constrained, and the top 1% feel inadequate, then what is the actual point of the number? The truth is, wealth is not an absolute number on a spreadsheet. Wealth is a relationship between your income, your assets, and your desires. As the legendary Charlie Munger always preached, the first $100,000 is an absolute pain to accumulate, but you have to do it. Why? Because once the momentum of compounding capital takes over, your money begins to work harder than you do. But that compounding only matters if you can control the beast of consumer desire. If your desire always outpaces your capital, your net worth is completely irrelevant. You will be a high net worth individual living with the exact same cortisol levels as someone living paycheck to paycheck. So, how do you apply these profound insights to your own life? The actionable lesson here is to completely redefine what it means to be rich. True wealth is not about hitting the top 1% threshold to impress a society of strangers. True wealth is measured in time, autonomy, and psychological freedom. It is the ability to wake up in the morning and say, "I can do whatever I want today." If you want to achieve true freedom, you must focus heavily on the gap between your income and your ego. Keep your expenses structurally low while aggressively building your asset base. Aim to move up the percentile rankings, not so you can buy a bigger house, but so you can buy back your time. At the end of the day, the economic data proves that the game of wealth is entirely psychological. You can look incredibly rich to the outside world while being utterly bankrupt on the inside, terrified of the next market downturn. Or you can build a quiet, unshakable fortress of wealth that gives you absolute control over your destiny. The choice is entirely yours. Think deeply about your current financial targets. Are you building a life designed to look wealthy to others, or are you building a life that actually feels wealthy to you? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Do you think the top 1% threshold is still achievable for the average person today? Thank you for watching,